18th?
19.
October 19th, 2003. And I'm 30 years old, and Grandpa just turned 85 about a week ago or so. And we're going to sit down and just have a conversation. So hope you guys enjoy it. And that's it. All right. Well, please tell me your full name, the date that you were born, and where you were born.
Well, Harry Frank Christensen, October 10, 1918, Seattle, Washington.
Great. And when you were a young child, I remember you telling me about how you like to play around like you were Al Capone, stuff like that. What were you, like 3 or 4 or something?
Oh, yeah, a little older than that.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it might seem like a silly question, but did you play, what did you like playing when you were a kid? How old were you when you had to start actually working?
Well, my brother, little brother, and I, we were more buddy-buddy than my other brother, Carl, that was older. And there was a new kid moved into the neighborhood, and he wanted to be in our bunch. And we told him, you have to buy your way in. And so he says, I'll get something. So he went home and he swiped a can of pork and beans. And we built a little fire out in the woods, and we was going to heat them up. We didn't punch any holes in the lid. We had beans in our hair.
So did he make it into your bunch after that?
Oh yeah, but he was sure a slick finger, I'll tell you. Man, he could steal the eyes out of a guy.
Really?
Oh man, I was glad to get rid of him.
Oh, because he not only stole for you guys, but he stole from you guys once in a while?
No, not from us. He knew better than that, or he'd get clobbered.
Yeah.
But for example, my mom was going to send me down to the grocery store, and at that time the grocer had these candy boxes on top of the counter.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him when we was going to go in, I says, keep your fingers in your pockets. I said, no swiping in here. And by gab, we walked out of there and he had candy in his pocket.
No kidding. So how old is this? How old are you during this time?
Must have been about 7 or 8.
Okay. Was he much younger than you during that time?
About the same.
Oh, okay.
About the same.
So you liked the fact that he could get you a couple of bars of candy once in a while, but he could also get you in trouble?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, tell me, well, when did you start working? I mean, 7 and 8, you're still having a good time, but when did you have to, because that's all around kind of the Great Depression.
Oh yeah, well, you picked up any kind of a job that you could, you know, but naturally people, if they wanted to hire help, they'd go for more older people or kids. Mm-hmm. And because after all, we just more or less played. But although later on I had a morning PI route, and I'd get up early morning. My mom had a couple sandwiches and a thermos of coffee sitting out there for me. And I'd take off, peddle my papers, and come home, have breakfast, and I don't know how many miles it was, but I'd walk from there to, well, it's equivalent from about down to Boyne Field.
Oh, so that's a good one.
But it was up on the steep hill, and I'd weed her garden. 4 bits and lunch.
50 cents in lunch, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And that was just like the once a week kind of thing, or just a random?
Oh yeah, about well, she'd call whenever she figured the garden needed work.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, at least you had a steady.
Yeah.
You knew that something. You knew that weeds grew. So.
Oh boy, I tell you, 4 bits is a lot of money.
I bet. Well, tell me a little bit about your mom. What was her full name?
Margit, M-A-R-G-I-T.
Okay.
Margit Martinson. And she came from, at that time it was called Christiania. But later, in 1927, that name was changed to Oslo, which is still the capital today.
Okay.
And that's the same country that was Norway. And that's same town my dad came from.
Okay.
And he came to this country before my mom. Mom came here, let's see, she was born in 1892, and she came over in was she 16 or 18?
I think that you told me that she was 16.
Yeah, something like that.
Young at any, I mean, whether
Oh,
it's
yeah,
16 or 18.
Yeah. And but she lived with her sister back in Philadelphia before she came to Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I guess she and my dad were married.
So what was the reason that she left Norway to come on over here?
Well, I guess things were tight over there too, you know, because she was, like what would you call it? Not a maid exactly. Well, she cleaned house.
A housekeeper? Or something?
Yeah. And that was about the only job I guess young girls could get over there.
Mm-hmm.
So she had heard that the streets in America were laid with gold. You just reached down, picked it up. There it was.
And that was right around, because World War I ended in 1918, right?
Yeah.
So was she fleeing the war happenings over there,
no.
or was that before the?
Before.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she I always told about the story of she was out shoveling snow in Philadelphia with just a sweater on, and people was walking around all bundled up, and it was so cold.
Oh wow. That's amazing that she would be doing that. It's.
Yeah.
I mean, I flash back when I was 16 and there was nothing like that. So I mean, jeez. So, and this spans the whole time. I don't want to have to narrow it down to any specific time, but what are some fond memories of your mom? When you think back, more times than none, you have maybe a common memory that you might come back to. So what were some fond memories of your mom?
Well, my dad died, I think, in about 1928, and Mom had 6 kids then, 4 boys, 2 girls. And my dad wanted her to put us in an orphanage and go back to Norway. She wouldn't do it. She kept us together, she raised us, but we found out real early she was the boss.
How so? Tell me about that.
Well, it's just like my older brother. Because it was our dad was Papa, Mom was Mama, and after he died, when my brothers said that he was Papa.
Is that Carl?
No, Clarence.
Okay.
And when Mom came home, because she finally went to work at a can factory where they made tin cans and that. And I guess my sister, my older sister, told my mom. And she went in, she grabbed him by the nape of the neck, I guess, and told him, I'm the papa and I'm the mama.
Yeah.
And that finished that right there.
Well, that was probably a good thing for her to do, because it's not fair to put that added stress onto Clarence.
No.
So, that's wonderful. So was there ever any, what did you guys like to do for fun? I mean, there's a lot of work that has to be done, obviously, in the family, but when you guys had spare time or whatever, was there ever a thing that you as a family like to do together, or just you and your mom like to do together that were fun things that you like to do, or?
It was, Mom had how was that she went? Monday, she done laundry. Tuesday was ironing. Wednesday and Thursday was cleaning house. And then, I guess after that, then she, well, she'd lay out the work for us when she went to work. And at that time, it was just coal and wood stove. And she'd order a slab of wood, and they'd deliver that thing and dump it out there, and we had to pile it. And it was all green and wet. And your hands get full of little stickers and everything. And but that was our job, and you'd better do it.
Yeah. Or the nape of your neck would be
Yeah.
strung up a little bit later on.
You finally learn to appreciate, what she had done. 6 kids.
Yeah.
And not one of us got in trouble. Like today, for crying out loud, dope and all that stupidness.
Yeah.
That's all it is, stupidness.
Yeah, that's amazing. So the house that we used to go and visit her, was that where you were raised, in that house?
Oh,
or?
no, that was up on Beacon Hill there, you
Yeah.
mean? No, we were born in the city of Seattle, but it was down on an area what they call the county strip.
Where's that? What is it now? Where is that? at?
Seattle.
Oh, okay. Like
And,
downtown Seattle, or?
Yeah, it's. I showed you where the house my dad built there on 13th.
I think so. I mean, it flashes a memory, but not enough for me to visualize it in my head.
No, but it was in that area, only a couple of blocks west, and then it was just a couple of blocks south. It was just shacks, is really what it was. It wasn't houses.
Mm-hmm.
And but then my dad would get tired of that, and he built that house up on 13th, and by himself.
Yeah.
And that's where we were raised.
It's amazing. So, do you mean shacks like Hooverville?
Well, not quite. It was.
Where the stadiums are right about now? Or where the Kingdom was? Was that Hooverville during the Depression?
Yeah, down along the waterfront.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not that.
No.
Okay.
No. It, say 1x6s, 1x12s, 2x4s, and stuff like that. As far as I can remember.
Sure. Well, you've told me a lot about him already. Tell me about your biological father. Now, what was his full name?
Well, in Norway, it was Trygve. That's Tom, they call it in the States.
Okay.
And Tom Christensen. And I don't know his birth date or anything.
Okay. Was he a good guy?
As far as I know.
Yeah. Far as what? So he passed in 1928. So that would have only made you about 9 or 10 years old.
I wasn't quite 10 because I remember 10. Always believe when you have kids of your own, tell them that they have little guardian angels watching them. I was going to Sunday school, and my mom had told me, you do not cross the street. You stay on this side of the street, she says, because it was straight down, and then I didn't have to cross any streets or nothing. And I was 10 years old, my birthday. And I felt real bad. Mom didn't have a dime to give me. And but I was walking down the street, and I don't know why I did it, but I crossed the street. I found a dime.
Hmm.
And I was just prouder than all get out. And went into Sunday school, and I asked the preacher if he had 10 pennies on BTO, you know. And
What's that?
big time operator. And he gave me 10 pennies, and then during the session, any birthdays today? So I gets up there and I drop my pennies in one at a time, 10 of them.
That's great.
Yeah.
So was that what would happen on somebody's birthday in church? They would drop however many years they were old pennies?
Uh-huh.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
I never knew that. It's wonderful. So when did art come into the picture?
Oh, gee willikers. Yeah, it was after the war.
Oh, so it was much further after.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a story that you told me that I'm probably just gonna not tell correctly because I don't remember much about it. So fill me in on the details. But was it your stepfather? Not the nicest man in the world. And there was one time where you. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Go ahead and tell me about that because I don't really remember all that much about it. But what was what happened?
Well, he was a real good man.
Art?
No.
Okay.
Gus.
Okay.
His name was Gus. And until he started to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And then, many a time, we run. And across the street from the house there on 13th, there's a big, huge alder tree. And this one night, he was chasing me, and I grabbed me a limb, and up I went. And he started to come up, and I said, you come up, I'm going to kick you square in the mush. So he backed off.
Yeah. Now was he? Did he marry your mom, or was
Oh,
he
yeah.
just okay?
Yeah.
And when was that? Like
Oh, gee, that must have been early 30s. Yeah.
And how long was he around or in the picture? Did he pass away, or did he?
Oh,
leave
yeah.
for-
Mom had to divorce him because he got those. After this one time, I was home from the CCC camp, and that was hard work in there. And I was in the other room, and he was sitting out there. Where's the scissor bell? Where's the scissor bell? I walked out and I said, you looking for me? And he bug-eyed at me, you know, and he got up and he says, yeah. And he starts for me, and I boom, boom. And on the wood stove, there was an iron rod. And my mom says, look out, Harry, he's going to take that rod after you. I says, Gus, you take that off that stove and I'll wrap it around your neck.
How old were you about that time?
Oh, about 19.
Okay.
And so he left it alone. But after that, things just went to pot there, and so Mom got a divorce.
Yeah.
And he just boozed himself out.
And that was pretty much the last that you heard of him after that.
You know. But it was just that damn booze. He was. You won't find too many guys that will marry a woman with 6 kids.
True.
Yeah.
Do you remember what he did for a living?
Longshoreman.
Longshoreman.
Yeah.
So tell me about your siblings. 6 kids. Go ahead and tell me all the names and where you lined up in the 6.
Well, let's see. The oldest was Clarence. He was. His birthday was easy to remember. December the 7th, Pearl Harbor Day.
Yeah.
And
What year was that he was born in?
Clarence was born. I think it must have been. The early 20s, I think. And then there was Margaret. She died when her baby was born. That was G. Willikin. Must have been about 1913. No. Clarence was 12, I think, 1912. Then Margaret must have been about 1913 or 14.
Mm-hmm.
And then Thelma. She was 1915. And then my brother Carl. He was right ahead of me. He was 1917, I think. And then May, 1918. And then my little brother. And
What was his name?
George.
So, and was he probably like 1 year after you then, 1919?
Yeah, 1921, same as Grandma.
Really?
Mhm. But like I say, I don't. The only birthday I can recall is Clarence and Thelma, Carl. That's it.
Yeah. So, with such a big family, I think back to how Cindy and I were when we were kids. Did you all get along? You mentioned earlier that you got along with some a little bit more than the others, but tell me.
Oh, yeah, we got along. Today, you know, it's just like now with Spencer's birthday coming up. Holy moly, you're running around trying to find things to. We used to play caps. That's the tops off the old milk bottles.
Uh-huh.
Cardboard caps.
Okay.
And you put a couple on the floor, and then you'd flip them and see if you got it on the other one. If I got one of my caps on one of yours, but you covered both of them, it was yours.
Okay.
See, that's the games that you played with.
Sure.
And then you made your own games.
Mm-hmm. So you guys got along pretty well?
Oh yeah. Georgie and I, we just come home from Sunday school. And cards pick up. I don't know what you're talking about, Ma.
You and Clarence, he told you to play that game. Throw it up in the air.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
He came home one night from I don't know whether he was Western Union then or had started on the waterfront. But he asked me if I wanted to play a card game, a new card game. I sure. And he says, it's called 52 Pickup. Sure. And he flipped them on the floor, and I stood there and I looked at him and I said, where's the game? And he said, that's it, you pick them up.
Everybody seems in their life they play that game once and only once.
Yeah.
But they sure like to teach other people about it.
Yeah, as I started to say, George and I had just come home from Sunday school, and we were laying on the floor there, and I was going to read the funny papers to him. And the kid across the street came, pounded on the front door, and he says, George, you want to go along? He says, my dad is going to go off and with his truck and pick up some wood. And so George says, yeah, I'll be right there. So he puts on his coat and he heads out the back door. And so I was laying there reading the funnies myself, and pound on the door. Call the doctor, quick, Georgie's head's bleeding. And they were standing up, there was a flatbed truck. They were standing up, holding on right by the cab. And he backed out and he caught his head on the cross beam there on the garage door and just smashed.
Yeah. How old was Georgie then?
10.
Oh.
Just before, the day before, Mom had just buried my sister, Margaret. So she just about flipped out.
And rightly so.
Oh,
So you were 1 year older than George, so you must have been around 11 during that time?
yeah. Like I say, I don't remember his birthday.
Sure.
I should have asked Mom, but...
Right around there, though.
Yeah.
So Margaret passed because she was giving birth.
Uh-huh.
Did the baby survive?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And, but Mom was going to go to court and try to, the baby's name was Juanita, and tried to get Juanita to bring up herself, but you know that would never go because biological dad.
Sure.
And they were Spaniards, and Mom and Gus was trying to run him off all the time, and but they went off and got married. And
Did you ever hear of Juanita ever again? Or?
oh yeah, after I used to have a Seattle Star
Uh-huh.
paper out, and I'd walk by the house, and little Juanita, she'd always stand there in the window, and she'd look at me, and I'd wave at her, and she'd duck down.
So she seemed like a pretty good kid.
Oh yeah.
So it was literally one day after.
Yeah, it was.
Oh gosh. Awful.
Yeah, today, you know, it'd be on national or on news and everything, but then it was paper carriers. They'd have, they'd call you up and tell you to get to your station, pick up extra papers. So they were walking around that all over. Death strikes twice.
She was in the papers? Because
Oh
of that?
yeah.
And I wonder how that was welcomed into your family.
Oh, there was one person there, I don't know who it was, but he went out and he told the kids that, you know, move on.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, this is a kind of a silly question, but you just said it right there that your mom almost lost it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, aside from the just the pain of losing two kids, you think,
Yeah. Flick.
yeah,
Yeah.
one does not ever get over it.
No.
However, how long did it take for her
Well,
for?
I do recall Mom was always September. She always says that was her hoodoo month, because that's when my dad died, I guess, and then Margaret and Georgie.
Oh wow, her least favorite month of the year, I
Yeah.
assume.
You went out. You be careful. You be home at such and such a time, buddy. You better be there.
Yeah. Wow. Can you tell me anything about your grandparents, whether it be on your mom or your dad's side? Did they ever talk about your grandparents at all? No matter how small of any information.
If they did, Jake, we just didn't pay any attention.
Yeah.
You know. I know after my dad died, my grandmother sent money to for Mom to pack up and bring all of his kids, move to Norway. Well, she had, I guess Georgie and I were running around practically barefoot, and so she wrote her mother and told her that she had to buy us shoes. So she understood. But one thing I neglected to say to begin with, when Mom came to this country, she landed in Ellis Island, and she didn't understand a word of English. But at that time they had gold, and the guy was standing down at the foot of the gangplank, and he was motioning money. So Mom just held out her hand. She didn't know what he took.
Mm-hmm. And most likely she probably didn't have to give him anything.
No, that's about it. Just shakedown.
Yeah. What a way to come into the country.
Yeah.
Thinking that it's paved with gold, and you end up having it all stolen from you.
Yeah.
You know, I honestly cannot fathom the idea of it now. I mean, that in itself is a strong woman to be able to come on over here, whether it's 16 or 18 years old, and start a whole new life alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, she was in Philadelphia, and then she met her husband, and then they both moved out here?
Well, she knew him there in Norway,
Oh, okay.
and then he came to this country first,
Mm-hmm.
and then Mom. Yeah.
That's amazing. So, can you tell me anything about any other family members that I may have neglected to ask you about? Aunts, uncles, cousins, anybody that I haven't really brought up?
No, the only ones that, like my dad said, told a neighbor. He was longshoreman also. And he was real bad off. And he was dying. And Georgie and I was walking with him. And the neighbor comes over and is talking to my dad. And he says, well, where's all your friends, Tom? From work, you know. My dad pulled a silver dollar out of his pocket, and he, there's your friend.
Yeah. When you think back when you were a young kid, let's say 16 or younger, what are some of the first memories that come to your mind, whether they're good or bad? So when you flash back to that time, what do you think of first? How life was difficult or fun or family?
Broke my wrist.
How'd you do that?
Had an old wired together scooter. And it was right after the put in cement sidewalks. And I was on my scooter just pumping away to beat the band and there was a little rise. The one part of the sidewalk had sunk down a little bit and the other part was up. And I hit that damn thing and the wire snapped and down I went and I broke my wrist.
The Industrial Revolution cemented to break your bones.
Man.
So what were some of the happiest times when you were a young kid around that time?
Just having my mom, I guess, and our family all together.
A tight-knit family?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, there was neighbors there that tried to get the law to take us kids away from mom. And there was a couple came out from the, I guess, social end of it. And they went through mom's house and looked at her. Our clothes were old and patched, but they were clean.
Mm-hmm.
And mom never forgot the compliment the guy handed her when they were walking out the door. They says, "You'll get your reward in heaven."
Yeah. That's amazing. And to have neighbors like that living right next door.
Oh, I tell you.
They don't know. They didn't know.
No,
Just an assumption.
just because her husband and the oldest son was working, well, you know, mom didn't have a husband.
Plus, during that time, I mean, that's the Depression.
Yeah,
So
damn right.
that wouldn't be really out of that ordinary to have
Mm.
a child working.
No, it was rough go.
So tell me about elementary school. When you had to go to school, did you, I mean, generally speaking, did you like school? Did you like
Yes.
studying?
Yes, I liked it, and I was proudest kid in Maple School. There wasn't a kid in school that I couldn't beat in adding, multiplying, dividing, division.
That's great.
They'd have contests between sixth grade and fifth grade and what have you,
Mhm.
and I beat them all.
That's great. Now, of course, everybody talks about, you know, when I was young, I had to walk 40 miles uphill both ways in 3 feet of snow to get to school. But how far was school away from you? I would assume that you had to walk to school.
Oh, let's see. I guess it was about 12, 13 blocks.
You do realize now that I have this on tape, you can't tell me that story that you walked 40 miles each way to school. I got you. That's a trick question. No. Did you like your teachers? Did you have many different teachers, or was it you just had one teacher throughout the time? And
No, you had each grade, first, second, third, down up, including sixth, is a different teacher. And then the seventh grade, then you went over to Cleveland High School. And then you were 7, 8, and then you were a freshman, sophomore, junior.
yeah. Did you like your teachers? Were they good people, or?
In where? In high school or what?
Well, I mean, I guess throughout your whole school time. Let's start with elementary school. I mean,
Oh yeah.
back
yeah.
then you always hear the stories of the paddles and the rapping on the knuckles or anything like that.
Well, today you probably heard about this one that was raising the roof because they put duct tape over the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you talked too much and you were told to be quiet, this just what is about a half-inch Scotch tape. She just come and put a strip over your mouth.
Mhm.
Didn't hurt, but you got the idea. You kept your mouth shut.
Yeah. But generally speaking, they were good people.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you have myself? I have a teacher that stands out, but this isn't about me. Do you have a teacher that stands out in your head? Like, God, you know, they were a good teacher and they looked out for me. You know. Do you have any teachers like that?
Well, as you got into the higher grades, well, then you know they started to register. You thought about them a little more, and yeah, Miss can't remember the names.
Sure.
But, yeah, there was one teacher. She was blonde woman. I remember her. She, I was making me. They wanted to see how you use your time, you know. And she was coming along, and she saw me doing something. She says, "What are you doing, Harry?" And I says, "I'm making me a multiplication table." She fine.
That's great. That's great. So while you were in school, let's talk about like 7th grade and up. What kind of crowd did you hang out with? Were they like of course you have cliques in school.
Yeah.
So if you even want to use that term, what kind of group kids do you hang out with?
Really, 7th, 8th, no. I think must have been around Southmore. That's when I started hanging out, you know, with a certain bunch.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about them. Were they, what made you want to hang out with them? What did you guys like to do? Was it a group of just guys, or was it girls and guys that you hung out with?
No girls. There's one guy. Well, on Sundays we'd get to go to Mission Theater down Georgetown, and a dime admission, and this one guy, Jimmy English was his name. His dad had Georgetown Electric Bakery, and Jimmy naturally had a key. So after the movies, we'd always go down to the bakery and go in, eat pastry and drink milk.
Nice. You're gonna hang out with us for a while, Jimmy.
Yeah, one time we was there. There was no lights on or anything, and there's a couple gals walked by that we knew. And we opened the door and were standing there talking to them, and here comes a patrol car. Those cops are out right now, and the girls, they were really, you know, scared, and we were standing there eating pastry and drinking milk and mouthful. And old Jimmy told him who he was and what we were doing, and the cop says, "Well, I'll be around tomorrow morning." He says, "If you're not here, he's coming after you." Okay.
So were cops back in those days? Now, is this like freshman, sophomore, or 7th and 8th grade time?
That was about sophomore.
Back then, were police to be feared, or were you glad to see them when they came around?
There was one cop down there. Connors was his name. He looked out for us. I mean, one time we were walking down, going to the show, and he was in front of a beer parlor. And I guess I looked at this guy come stumbling out too long, and what are y'all looking at? And he give me a shove, and then the cop come around the corner. Hold it! He says, "You get out of here." And he he really read the law to that guy.
Really?
Yeah. No, he watched out for the kids down there. It's like the teacher, after I graduated and went to work, and he was one of my milk customers in Imus. And he was one of my customers, and he says, "You know, Harry," he says, "Mr. Gridley and I were awfully proud of our boys." He says, "Not one of you ever got in trouble with the law."
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so Georgetown's come up a couple of times, not only just today, but other times that we've talked about. But also in the same sentence as Georgetown, you always mentioned that it was kind of a tough part of town.
Mm-hmm.
So what made it a tough part of town? Can you, in today's standards, where is Georgetown now? Yeah, what made it a tough part of town?
Well, it used to be a separate little town. It was just like Tukwila here was annexed from, we used to just be called Seattle, but now we're Tukwila.
Okay.
And that's the same way with Georgetown. It was Georgetown. They had their own mayor, own police force, and fire department, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And well, there was the breweries down there, and big breweries, and beer joints, and whoopee houses, and it was a pretty independent place.
And whereabouts is that in, what part of Seattle was that in?
Well, it was, there was South Seattle. There's, I'm trying to think of well, it's just a little bit south of where the stadiums are today.
Okay. Yeah.
And, 'cause that would be South Seattle. And then you cross the bridge, and then you're in Georgetown.
In West Seattle?
No, coming
Okay.
this way,
Okay.
south.
Kind of where the Rainier Brewery used to be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Was that one of the major breweries that were around back in...
Oh, heavens no. They, those old brick breweries are still standing down there in Georgetown.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that a fun time that you look back and think about in Georgetown, generally speaking, I guess?
Yeah.
How old were you during that time? I mean, well, I guess that was your whole upbringing, that whole time.
Yeah.
So when you started to, when you were in high school, were you part of a gang or anything like that?
No, it was just, you weren't a gang, you were just, as you say, a clique.
Yeah. How big was your clique? How many people hung out in your group?
5.
Just 5 of you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Were those considered your best friends, or was out of the 5 you just had this one guy or a couple of guys that you hung out with that you considered your best friends, or was it your whole
Just
group?
one, Jim Hudson was his name. Everybody had a nickname. He was called the Monk.
The Monk?
And we used to play together when we was little. And when I was in elementary school, I skipped a grade. And I came down sick. I had, then they call it poison oak. From the top of my head to the bottom of my feet, I was covered with blisters.
Oh no.
And so naturally I flunked.
Yeah.
But that's where Jimmy lived, was in that house, and then there was somebody evidently was figuring on building another house, and they built it for the basement and everything. But they run out of money, and it just filled up with stagnant water. And so,
What was your nickname?
Turk.
Turk? Was there a story behind how you got that nickname?
No, it was just we were eating lunch at in high school, and this one guy, he came in. He was Italian. He says, "Here comes the wop," and he was Italian, and he says, "Yeah," he says, "Here I come, Turk."
Oh, so it's kind of like a dig back at
Yeah.
you. So, I mean, that obviously meant without papers. That's where that came from. But,
Yeah.
but now, did he still thought of it as a negative comment towards him?
I know.
It was just a
Yeah.
matter of fact.
It's just like one of the other guys. His dad was flew fighter pilot in the German army during World War One, and so we called him Heine. Maybe his folks didn't like it, but
But he wasn't part of the group. Yeah, so.
oh yeah, he was.
Oh, he was?
Oh yeah, and that I'm telling you, that guy is. He was military all the time, military, you know, and he went to a school there in South Park called Concord, and at that time they had schoolboy patrols at crossings,
Mhm.
and he wanted he had those leggings wrapped around and everything, you know, and my barber, he tells me that they used to knock him on his bucket every time they saw him.
So when you were in your teens, what kind of jobs did you have? Because that would be right in the Depression, right? So when did the Depression start?
About 19... What was that, Ma? About 1929?
Something around there.
Yeah.
So what kind of jobs did you have when you were a teenager? Just anything that would come
Paper.
around?
Paper route. Boy, I'm telling you, they were hard to get. Ooh. You couldn't buy them.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, for the length of time that I delivered the paper, I think I lost about a dollar and a half. Guys, people moving out.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Where the old new Rainier Brewery is down there. There used to be a row of apartments up in there, and they had their own little mayor. And there's a bootlegger place. And I found out this one guy skipped out on me, owed me 4 bits. No, $1.
Yeah.
$1. And I found out he lived up in there. So the 5 of us, we go up there. And we were pussyfooting around, you know, looking for the number. And what the hell are you guys looking for?
Was that the mayor or the customer?
The mayor.
Okay.
So I told him, and he says, "Come on." So we went up there, and he pounded on the door, and he says, "This paper kid says you owe him $1." He says, "Yeah, I forgot to give it to him." Just give it to him. He gave me $1, and he said, "Now you guys get the hell out of here. Don't ever come back." We didn't.
Friendly guy.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of, not mayhem, but there wasn't a lot of order. A lot of small areas that each had
Yeah.
individual mayors and
Yeah.
what have you.
Yeah, it was best just to keep your nose clean, stay out of the other guy's backyard.
Yeah. So when you were in your teens, when did you go into the CCCs? Or was that even in your teens, or?
To begin, yeah, it was. The idea was to keep young guys out of prison, give them something to do. You was given $1 a day, clothes, meals, doctor, everything else. But you get $8 for shaving cream or candy or anything like that. And the other 22 went home to your folks to help.
Yeah. Now, tell me, what does CCC stand for? Who thought of it? And well, you just told me what the purpose was of it.
Civilian Conservation Corps. And the idea was they had forestry and soil conservation, and but you were always in soil conservation. You were more in wheat country.
Where were you stationed? And
Uh,
what did you do initially?
Well, I started out in Yakima, a camp called Soda Springs, and I had taken typing in school, and the educational advisor asked me if I wanted a job in the educational office and typing, what have you. I said, nah. I said, I'll be out here with these guys. I helped fight one forest fire, and I was right at his door, asking him if that job was still open.
It just takes one forest fire to change your
Oh,
mind.
brother, my nose was bleeding, and
So how long, this forest fire, was it, I mean, I can't assume that it was just a day trip out to do this. So
yeah, well, that's the idea. You know, they had because things were, you see all these big fires and everything they have today, for crying out loud. If they had the CCC camp, they'd be in there and they'd be cleaning that out, all that trash and everything, all that brush, and but you know, involuntary servitude.
hmm So was it, were the CCCs something that you had a choice to do?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You didn't have to go into it. No, I think who the heck was it that started it? It was some president anyway. He came up with the idea. And
Roosevelt.
Rosie? Okay.
And how long were you in the CCCs for?
You could only be in there for 2 years. And but let's see, I went from Yakima to Waterville and then down to North Bend. And that's when this other guy, the Click guy, his dad worked for the railroad. And they said there was a job coach cleaning on the railroad. And wanted to know if I wanted to come to it. Well, my 2 years was just about up, so I grabbed it.
Looking back, did you like the experience in the CCCs?
Oh, you betcha. You betcha.
Did you kind of wish it could have been 3 years that you could have been in it, or were you ready
Well,
to move on to something else?
No, that there, because see, it was run by the Army,
hmm
and that's what we had was, let's see, in Soda Springs it was lieutenant, that was commander, and then Waterville was a colonel, and then there was a captain down in North Bend. So he was all Army.
Kind of got you ready for something later on in life, apparently, whether you knew it or not at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. How to throw a high ball.
Yeah. Bet. So, when did you meet Grandma, and how did you meet her?
Well, she was an obnoxious individual.
I just can't see that.
We were at the movies, and this other kid and I, and pretty soon these couple of gals sitting in the back of us started throwing peanut shells at us. And we said, if you can't throw full ones, keep the empties. And that's how we met, you might say, but
How old were you about that time?
oh gee. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. How old was I, Ma?
15, 16. So,
I gotta go pee.
oh, well, let's go ahead and take a pause.